deafblind population is no longer made up of young children. Many are coming of age, and as parents and teachers, we must make every effort to find them a productive role in society. As time grows short, we must reach out and enlist community aid and support by educating the community as to the abilities of our deafblind students. This task is not the responsibility of only one group, but a partnership involving both parents and educators. The program you are about to see is one example of that community involvement.
Three of my students have been working at McDonald's part-time and attending school the other days of the week. Two of my students have been working there since mid-September, and one of my students just recently, for 2 or 3 months. We got a phone call in September asking if any of our students would be able to work part-time during the rush. And although we'd had a pre-career program going here for several years, I wasn't exactly sure whether they had the skills to work there. I decided to take a long chance and drove the children down just to see if they'd be able to utilize the skills that they learned here in another setting. So when McDonald showed an initial reluctance because of communication difficulties to hire our children, I thought it might be expedient if I volunteered to stay with them as a teacher on the job, to move the classroom from the classroom right into the store. I didn't foresee in those first few hours of the first day that this would be one of the major factors in the success, if only to allay the fears of the managers who knew that they didn't have the communication capabilities with these children. When I mentioned the word blind on the phone for the first time, the manager showed almost a panic, and she said, well, I can't use blind people. I had to add very quickly that Sherry had a peripheral vision loss, but that she had good usable central vision. I'd say one thing that would really be imperative for promote handicapped children working for any corporation: maximize the child's successes, maximize the positive aspects of the child, and give the employer a chance to see what the child can do. Give them a chance to see that the child can do the job. If you give the employer a chance, you'll probably give the students a chance.
McDonald's is a very people-oriented company, and they're not interested simply in making profit. They're also interested in doing something good for the community in which they're located. I thought that perhaps there might be some communication problems, and secondly, I felt that perhaps these kids would not have the ability to make decisions or be flexible.
The two students that we used for the job were the oldest students. McDonald's needed kids that were over 16. And they were the only kids over 16 that we had in the work program at the time. Betsy was still 15. We found out several weeks later that she would be able to work for the store on what amounted to a training program. Sherry was very flexible, she was very adaptable, and she learned tasks very quickly. Kenneth was very methodical, he was very precise, and he too had the flexibility to change tasks midway through it and to go on to something else.
The students clean up the lot and lobby. In other words, they clean up the tables, they mop the floor, they pick up the trash outside, they run the French fry station, They do the morning breakfast dishes and put them away. They are able to do stock up. They're able to do just about anything except what involves communication with the customers or running the actual grill. In running French fries or in cleaning up the lobby, in doing breakfast dishes, everything has to be done in sequence. So the fact that they already understood that there was a sequential nature to any task helped quite a bit.
Some of the students started 7 years ago learning how to clean tables at the hospital on campus. During this time, they learned the difference between the classroom setting and the work setting. They learned about schedules. They learned concepts such as responsibility for an area, responsibility to a supervisor. All of these things were taught over a long period of time. We did things like give them work uniforms for when they worked at the hospital. They would get paid for the jobs that they did on campus, and we did the math accordingly. On payroll day, they would learn that they were paid so much per hour, and they learned the concepts of responsibility for a task and the rewards, the economic rewards that went with it. The money became a mark of pride for a lot of the kids. Now when they're earning hundreds of dollars every few weeks, the response is even more incredible. Vicki Krishock, the manager at the store when the children were hired, prepared her crew for the coming of our students. She prepared them actually over a period of several days. She mentioned that they might have some handicapped students coming into work, and she asked the reaction of a number of her crew people. I think she was enthused at the reaction she got from the people that worked on the grill, the people that worked on the serving line. Everyone was really eager to give them a chance.
The response of the other crew people in the store was so enthusiastic and so overwhelming that we had a bit of a problem controlling them, in that they all wanted to come in and volunteer their time to help train the deaf-blind students. Well, of course, that's against the law. You cannot have people volunteering their time in a business. If they don't clock in, they're not covered by insurance and so on and so forth. Also, they insisted immediately that we start sign language classes, and in the crew room we have an enormous board with each of the hand signals up for the alphabet. And I would say that a good 50% of my crew people understand the deaf alphabet and are able to use it to some extent. All of my managers in the store also learned the alphabet and many of the signals that were necessary to communicate with the kids.
I was wondering if this response would wear off over a long period of time. It's more realistic now. They're accepted as another part of the crew rather than primarily an exceptional child or a handicapped child. They're thought of primarily now as Betsy, Kenny, and Sherry. They've learned to do their jobs well enough so that they can cover their area, cover it well, and they become literally an integral part of the workings of the store.
Initially, we would have questions from customers asking us whether or not these students were actually employees of the store, or whether perhaps they were just interning at the store, whether they were being paid, what hours they worked, and so on. Frequently, customers would come up and ask, how do you say thank you in sign language? How do you say please in sign language? How do you say what's your name? And then gradually it got to the point where when we had Sherry and Kenny's birthday party, several of the customers came and gave both kids gifts. There's a cost involved in training any employee, whether he's handicapped or not, and the deaf-blind students that I have working at the store have a much lower sick call rate. They are always on time, so any perhaps slight additional training cost that was involved was absolutely outweighed by the fact that they never call in sick, they're always on time, they're always enthusiastic, and usually what happens is they get there about a half an hour early, and I'll find them somewhere out on the lot picking up trash a half an hour before their shift starts. They're absolutely still as enthusiastic as they were the day they started, perhaps more so because now they're bringing home paychecks.
I think this work attitude is going to be one thing that's really in our children's favor. Employers are going to see this when the child is there on trial, and he's going to be more willing to hire the child. It's hard to put your finger on it, but it's a positive attitude towards work. Some of these kids, when they get on the job, they show not only a willingness to work, they show an enjoyment in it. There's almost an atmosphere of accomplishment. When they do a task, they're proud of it. To teach this work attitude was a process of several years and a lot of trial and error on the way. What it basically amounted to was fostering success when these children worked. When we brought them out to an actual sheltered workshop, we made sure that we set up some success. There's a lot of compensation that we have to teach these children when they're working on the jobs. For instance, in the parking lot, picking up papers, policing up the area, as they call it. We have them stop at checkpoints throughout the parking lot and look both ways. When I taught this, I had their hands above their head in a gesture, emphasizing the fact that they stopped, they looked, and they listened. The old song that you learn in kindergarten about stopping and looking and listening for trains and cars, we've taught mostly visually here. And even now, as I watch them in the distance, as they walk from the bus to work, if there's a drive-in entrance to a bank, they'll stop and look for cars. Cars, and drivers see these children standing there, taking these incredible poses, looking for cars, and they put on the brakes. They don't know exactly what to do, so the cars stop. The program has the support of Diana Byers, the area supervisor, and with her support, the program has gone on, even through changes of management and through the rapid turnover of personnel, as you'd find in any fast food store.
Hi, I'm Linda Rogers. I'm the manager of McDonald's in Alameda. I took over the store March of '79 with the handicap program already ongoing in the store. As a new manager coming into the store, I was very fearful of the program, in so much as I've never worked with handicapped or been around handicapped people at any time at all. What I did when I came into the store was to spend a couple weeks just watching the program to see how it worked, and getting to know the kids and letting them get to know me. As I deal with the handicapped kids on a day-to-day basis, I make a point of not treating them any differently than I would treat any of my other crew. Basically because I feel that if we do too much for them, they're not really learning anything. They're not learning how to really hold a job. So I expect the same amount of work from these kids as I do from my normal crew people on it as they do their jobs. I expect them to progress through their positions, to be able, if possible, to learn other positions in the store. I've found that there are a lot of assets to hiring these kids because they do show up on time, because they're very good crew people. They do their work and they're productive. So when I evaluated the program coming into Alameda, I found that not only is it a good program because it benefits the kids involved in it, but also they are exactly what McDonald's is looking for in their employees.
I've been very pleased to see the progress with which these students have improved. When we send an average employee out to work lot and lobby, unless we follow up on them, the general trend is to do a hit-and-miss job. I'm very impressed with the fact that these students tend to be more thorough, and in being more thorough are really more in keeping with McDonald's standards of a very clean store. The skills that McDonald's teaches are not just how to cook French fries and how to toast buns and cook meat. We are very often taking a student when they have their first job, and some of the things that they learned are sort of subjective are a sense of responsibility. In other words, showing up to work on time, showing up in a clean pressed uniform and having taken a shower in the morning, a sense of dependability. They also learn teamwork, because one person cannot run a McDonald's by themselves. In fact, during a lunch hour rush, it very often takes 4 people to fabricate one sandwich. And they have to learn a sense of teamwork, how to get along with people, how to be polite with people. And so what we're doing really is preparing them for their eventual career in life. Unfortunately, if you will, an average unit can only absorb so many of these young students. I think if a person was resourceful and let their imagination be their guide, there are any number of different businesses, merchants, service agencies that could use these people's talents. we're very happy to give them their start here and hope that in many cases that they will get their first start here, as many other young people do, and then go on to bigger and better and more challenging responsibilities.
I think that probably the easiest way to go about starting this type of program in another industry or with another employer or with another corporation would be to simply go out, meet an owner or a vice president of operations for a corporation or a company and say to them, look, we have these kids available to work. We don't expect you to train them. In fact, we probably don't even expect you to take a chance on having to pay them initially. What we would like to do is start an internship in your store. Our insurance will totally cover these kids. We will have someone in there to train them. And then if it works out well and you're interested in hiring them on after 3 months as permanent employees, then we'll go ahead and work from there. But the most important thing is that a qualified instructor goes along with these kids. That is what turns most employers off, the fact that they are not trained to deal with the handicap, and they are unable to figure out how they're going to be able to communicate with these people, let alone how to train the handicap to work in their facility.
I think McDonald's has provided an area where the children have to utilize their social skills. They're forced to utilize communication skills that they've learned but are a little hesitant in using. All around in every area, academics, self-esteem, communication, every area, McDonald's has just been a boon. McDonald's was the first corporation in this country, as far as we know, to give a job, a regular paying job, to congenitally deafblind children. We proved that it can work. It took some effort, it took a lot of dedication. In fact, it took several years here at the school, working in the pre-vocational program. But we proved it can be done. It can be done in other jobs. It can be done in other areas. If someone's willing to put in the time, teaching job skills at school, and to move with the children out into the job, working with the children, right in the store, right on the job, I think the program can work in a great many more settings.